Imagine you're in a must-win situation against a strong player. You begin with pawn to e4 and then they respond with the Sicilian defense. Ouch! Nobody likes the Sicilian. But hey, I want to show you a very quick way to destroy the Sicilian defense again. I've never seen this anywhere on YouTube or on the internet. And that's why I'm going to call this my own. Please help me to choose a name for this gambit, which you are about to see. Also playable in classical chess, by the way, FIDE rated. You can also try it in serious rated tournaments, by the way. You go pawn to d3. This looks like you want to play the king's Indian attack against the Sicilian defense, which goes like that, as shown by the arrows. And that's why one of the moves that you're going to see in over-the-board games, as evidenced by the Masters database, is pawn to d5. Now wait, what Masters do here is playing knight d2, going straight into the king's Indian attack and fianchetto their bishop as time goes on. But nope, here we want to play knight f3. Yes, even this has been played before in the Masters database, as you can see. Sadly, all the games resulted in draws. Point is, after pawn takes, most grandmasters prefer taking back with their d pawn, allowing this queen trade to happen, and Stockfish likes that. But not on my watch. If black takes this pawn, I want you guys to do what I say. Go knight g5, as if you are playing the Tennison Gambit. And yep, the top played move once again in the Lichess database is ed, after which you should take back with your bishop. And I'm sure you already know what is coming if you are a keen follower of my videos. If black plays any of these highlighted moves, just know that you are winning, including g6. For example, if they play knight f6, the top played move, you can simply sacrifice your knight on f7, double attacking the queen and the rook. If king takes, you know what to do? Either bishop g6 check or bishop c4 is winning. So you can go bishop g6 for simplicity. After hg, you now take a free queen. This is the same thing that we see even in the Tennison Gambit. For those of you who don't know what the Tennison Gambit is, it starts like e4 and d5, the Scandinavian defense. Sometimes you can start with knight f3, it doesn't even matter. After d5, we simply go knight f3, same stuff, allowing black to take on e4 so that we relocate our knight to g5. Since we are attacking this pawn, most black players respond with knight f6, after which we play pawn to d3, and if they take, we take back with our bishop. After h6, this is when we sacrifice the knight on f7, same stuff, same bishop check, not allowing the king to go back to e8, so they take most of the times, and then we take that free queen, same stuff. And this is exactly what you see even against the Sicilian defense. You can also try this. Most of your opponents are going to blunder with knight f6, allowing you to sacrifice your knight. And if they take, sometimes you don't have to go bishop g6, especially in this particular line. You can also try bishop c4 check, because again, if king e8, you have bishop f7 check and you're going to win that free queen. Even if they play bishop e6, you're just going to take that free bishop, king e8, bishop f7 again, and win that queen. Maybe the only heavyweight is knight d5, but again, you can just go ahead and take. How about e6? Again, you can just take, because you know if pawn takes, you're going to take that free queen again. If bishop takes, you're going to take that equally. If king e7, this time you even have bishop g5. That's why in this Sicilian Tennison, I prefer going bishop c4, back on move 7, instead of bishop g6 check. And we are all saved by these blacks pawn on c5. Anyway, going back to move number 5, where we play knight g5, pawn takes, bishop takes. Instead of knight f6, I said anything else that black does on the king side, such as these highlighted moves, they are going to lose terribly. Equally, pawn to h6 is bad due to knight takes f7. And after king takes, you have the same strategy, bishop g6 check to win that queen once again. You can also go bishop c4 check. If pawn to e6, you have queen takes. If pawn to e6, you have bishop takes, followed by bishop f7 check to separate the king from the queen, and all that. Even bishop e6 doesn't make sense. By the way, after king e8, you can also try this other variation where you go queen h5 check. It looks like the king will be able to escape, but nope, you have check. After king c7, you have bishop f4 check, queen b6, and then go ahead and mate black in 2, only move king c6, and bam. Anyway, one would say we don't have to go this route because black may go back. That's true. Queen f7 check, king d7, and you go knight c3 if you just want to overextend the game. But anyway, there is no need to do that. Just go knight takes and bishop g6 check or bishop c4 to oversimplify things. e4, c5, d3, d5, knight f3, pawn takes, knight g5, pawn takes, and bishop takes. Apart from knight f6 and pawn to h6, if black plays g6, once again you can just sacrifice, and then after king takes, you go bishop takes g6 check to win that queen. Before I move on to other interesting things, there are certain instances where your opponent will play knight f6, and then after you take, they don't take back to allow that bishop c4 or bishop g6 tactic. Instead, they first of all give a check with their queen a5 check. My only advice is you don't play pawn to c3 or knight c3. You're going to lose a tempo and allow black to capture your knight. So you block with your bishop on d2, which also attacks the queen, so they have no time to capture your knight on f7. And at the end of the day, after something like queen b6, you're going to freely take that. Even in this position, you can still go on to lose this game because you're only up an exchange. So don't focus on this knight. Don't pay much attention on this knight. This is a very big point to take. Don't start looking for ways to rescue this knight. If anything, you're just going to sacrifice it on g6, period. If you start trying to rescue this knight, you're going to lose many tempi or tempos. Your development will be slow and your king will be attacked. So just put your king to safety and continue attacking. By the way, after knight takes, if black plays queen takes b2, as they always do, you can simply go bishop c3 in this particular position to attack the queen, or even knight c3 because black can take your rook. If tactics like bishop g4 show up, you go pawn to f3, bishop e6, not allowing your knight to come out, you simply cast a shot. This is what I was talking about. Again, queen b6, you go rook b1 attacking the queen. If queen c6, you just pin that queen. So they play queen d8 most of the time, so queen d6, and now you continue developing normally queen e2 attacking the bishop, etc. Anyway, that was just about the Tennison Gambit, where I was showing you what to do if black doesn't take your knight. Moving on back to the Sicilian defense, where you play pawn to d3 as if you want to play the king's Indian attack, and then black plays d5 to try and disturb your pawn structure. You just go knight f3. Once again, this is playable even in classical, by the way. If pawn takes, you just go knight e5. As you can tell from the eval bar, no much change has been made, still in the opening stage. Again, if pawn takes, you want to take back like this. This time, if black doesn't play any of these highlighted moves, and let's say they play pawn to e6, a French move, there's one sneaky move that I want to show you guys. First, Stockfish likes queen h5, that's okay. But if you play that, you're just going to get back to normal stuff where they play queen f6 or knight f6 to challenge your queen, and you have to continue playing this game while being down a pawn, but it's going to be equal. So take my advice, go bishop b5. This is a very sneaky way of beating strong players. Why do I like this? Well, it is because there's only one correct move for black in this position, and it has to be the ugly looking knight d7. And who is going to do that? Most people want to play bishop d7 first. See, if knight c6 is played, as you can tell from the eval bar, you are going to win terribly after queen takes queen. After king takes, you go knight takes f7, and this time you're going to win a rook, so you're just up an exchange. Or sometimes the way you can start is by oversimplifying material. Take that knight with check after bc. This is when you take that queen and then take that rook on e8. I mean on h8. Live correction there. So this is just winning for white, but you still have to work for your meal. Make sure to do the right thing. Be quick in development, attack your opponent's weaknesses, exchange big pieces, but leave pawns for the endgame. Those are principles to follow if you want to be winning your endgames. Anyway, so once again, instead of knight f6 or pawn to h6, black plays e6. Just go my elbow way by giving a check with your bishop. We've seen that knight c6 is bad. What if they play bishop d7, the top played move in the Lichess database? Now, this is when you surprise them with the move queen f3. With queen to f3, you are posing many threats which your opponents are going to overlook. First, if they take your bishop, which appears to be free, you have checkmate in one. Oh, if they play knight f6, this time you can take the free pawn on b7. And worse off, if they take the bishop on b5 once again, you have mate in one, like this. Oh, wait a second, if they don't take your bishop, and let's say they play knight c6, well, this time you're going to walk away with a free knight. Rook b8 doesn't do a thing due to bishop takes d7, check. And they have to take back with the knight. If they take back with the queen, you're going to win that free rook. So knight takes d7 is forced, after which you can simply retreat your queen back to f3 or put it on e4. Yes, moves like queen takes are okay, but you're just sidestepping your queen or removing it from the game for the time being. So just stay in the game. Play queen e4 or queen f3. I would play queen f3 in this position because it poses a checkmate threat. If f6, I would take on e6. If knight e5, maybe I would play queen e2, again attacking this knight and continue playing confusing moves. I'll castle short and start developing my pieces normally as time for traps is over. So once again, e6, bishop b5 check, bishop d7, and queen f3. Again, if black plays pawn to f6, guess what? You can actually sacrifice your knight on e6. This knight attacks the queen, so they have no time to take your bishop. So they play queen e7, attacking the knight or pinning the knight, after which you can oversimplify the game like this. You take, or you go queen h5 check. After g6, you take. If knight takes, you go queen e2. Sometimes you can start with, bishop takes d7. They don't have to take with the king because you're going to be ahead in development with that move, check. So they always take back with their knight, after which you can simply go queen e2. No need to go queen h5. With queen h5, you just want to invite a weakness and then go back. That's the logic behind. Next, you are even planning to give a check on c7 with your knight and win a free rook. Again, after bishop b5 check, bishop d7, and queen f3, this time if they don't play f6 and let's say they go queen f6, once again you just go ahead and take on b7. Point is, if bishop takes b5 again, no need to take the bishop, even though that's fine. You just go for a bigger piece, the rook. There's no checkmate, by the way. Queen e5 check runs into queen e4. No need to play bishop e3 again. You're going to run into this simple tactic, even though bishop e3 is still playable in this position. For example, this queen takes, you have queen takes b8, and after something like king d7, you have queen b7 check. If this, you have check and continue harassing black's king. So in the e6 line, after you go bishop b5 check, the only sensible move for black is knight d7, and not so many of your opponents are going to see that. Now after this, you can continue playing normally. Knight c3 is playable, and even queen f3 again. But anyway, due to these moves, I would go queen h5 to try and create a weakness. Only then would I go queen f3. So I just managed to create one weakness before playing queen f3. That's fine. By the way, if bishop e7 or h6, there's checkmate. So black has to play moves like knight f6, after which you need to realize there's time for everything. Time for traps is over. So start developing your pieces normally. Yes, you are down a pawn, but see that Stockfish evaluates the position as dead equal. There's nothing black can do. And it only takes one wrong move for black to die quickly. For example, you can see the eval bar. After a6, you can just take on d7. Say bishop takes. The whole point of playing knight c3 was to go knight ce4, putting more pressure on this knight. If knight takes, you have mate in one, so they don't have to do that. They play bishop e7, and then you go bishop e3, now attacking that Sicilian pawn. You want to get it back. If they play pawn to b6, you can even castle long, pinning the bishop to the queen. So that's why Stockfish evaluated the position as equal, because black's position will most of the times be cramped despite them being up a pawn. After castle short, you can oversimplify the game like this. Bishop takes, and then you sacrifice your rook, positional sacrifice. Point is, if queen takes, you have queen takes f6, and you're just up a piece. Sometimes after you play queen f3, instead of knight f6, you are going to see queen f6. Again, you can just take, and after bishop takes, you get back your pawn like this. This is another way of getting back your pawn if you are really pressed. If queen e5 check, once again, you don't have to play bishop e3, even though that's playable, because after all, you're attacking that rook, right? So you just go queen e4, and this endgame will be favorable for white. Lastly, after d3, d5, knight f3, pawn takes, knight g5, pawn takes, and bishop takes d3. What if black doesn't play h6, knight f6, or pawn to e6? And let's say they play knight c6. What do you do? Well, after knight c6, it's obvious that you can't take on f7 because that trick of yours won't happen. Black's queen is defended by the knight this time, so that's the purpose of that knight c6 move. So what you can do after that, once again, is to continue with normal development. Always remember that there's time for everything, time for traps and time for real chess. So if your traps don't work, consider playing normal chess. So in this position, I would consider playing castle shot or knight c3. Point is, if pawn to h6, well, this time you can just take on f7, sacrifice, because if king takes, you have queen h5, and this will be met in 3 or something like that. For example, if pawn to g6, now this will be met in 1. If they don't play that, let's say if they play king e6, this will be a mate in 2 after queen f5 check, and king d6 only move, knight b5 checkmate. Anyway, let's say black plays king f6 this time, you still have queen g6 check, and after king e5 you go pawn to f4 this time, and after king d4 only move, you go queen e4 checkmate. Right, let me know if you need part 2 of this video, where I'm going to be looking at other moves apart from pawn to d5. I mean, after e4, c5, d3, there are other moves that black can play apart from d5. In fact, knight c6 is very common at higher level or among experts. Also, pawn to d6 is played often, and pawn to e6 and g6. So apart from d5, these are the common Sicilian moves that I'm going to cover in my second part, if you guys want me to continue with this. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and hey, remember to share this video and subscribe if you haven't already, because that's the only way you encourage me to keep on doing these things. By the way, you can check out my courses at www.KaspaChess.com or on my Patreon page. That's how you support this channel. By the way, I don't ask for donations or free money, so the way you support this channel is by joining one of our membership tiers on Patreon or simply buying my courses. That really helps.